DeQuan Finn is a Baylor Bear. Let's do this thing. Emergency, Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for joining us for an emergency bonus pod of Locked On Baylor. I'm your host, Cam Stewart, looking a little bit nicer than usual. I just came from this nice dinner in the city of Waco, and the place was just buzzing with the news of DeQuan Finn, the Toledo quarterback who I hyped up big time last week, made his visit at the end of the week, and he has committed. He is coming to play at Baylor. Bang, bang. That's huge. This is a huge get. And there will be some of you more cynical than me, which is tough to do, that will say, come on, man. Toledo, Mac, playing on Tuesday nights. Come on. Yes, Mac player of the year. Yes, Toledo, Mac championship game the last 2 years. And yes, DeQuan Finn, 88 touchdowns in 3 years starting. And the only FBS quarterback with at least 800 yards rushing and 2,000 yards passing this year. He is that good, guys. He is that good. And he's going to come in here and I think is going to be your starting quarterback next year. And for as much holes as this Baylor team still has, one of the luxuries they had was I think they were going to be okay at quarterback no matter what. And if you guys have listened to today's episode, full episode of Locked On Baylor, talk about Sean Bell leaving. And the way I described the quarterback situation the last few years was it was never the problem. It was never bad. It was always pretty solid, but it was never transcendent. Okay. And that's kind of the way I look at this quarterback situation now. I like Sawyer Robertson. I think he has the potential to be a pretty darn good starting quarterback in major college football. And what you were going to get from him this next season was what you would have gotten the last few years. I don't think he was going to develop into the prime play, the prime of his college career. I don't think that was going to happen this year. But he was going to be solid. He wasn't going to lose you games. He was going to contribute greatly to you winning some games and was going to develop as the season went on. What you have with DeQuan Finn is a finished product in terms of college football, and a true dual threat quarterback. Malik Murphy has all the potential in the world. I would have been so happy if Baylor got him too, but there's this misconception that he's a dual threat quarterback. He's not. DeQuan Finn is a dual threat, and he has proven himself in college football, Division I college football, for 3 years now. And so maybe I'm hyping up DeQuan Finn too much, maybe. But I think his ceiling this year is better than Sawyer Robertson's ceiling this year, personally. And I think he has a better chance of coming in and getting the job versus what we've seen from grad transfers in the past at Baylor, like Anu Solomon and Jalen McClendon, who actually did both start on opening day, but that was gone pretty quickly for Charlie Brewer. I think DeQuan Finn comes in and he is your quarterback. And I kept thinking about the last few days, that scouting report I read off about him last week, and you could find it in the video is in the Locked On Baylor page. I'll put a link down in the comments or in the description below. But the scouting report said this kid is going to thrive in a spread attack that's more pro style. That is exactly what you've got with Jake Spavital. Exactly what you've got. And so if I'm keeping score at home, do I think Baylor's going to be a great team next year? No. I'd be happy with a bowl game next year. But looking at the offensive coordinator search, I said about the best you can do is Jake Spavital. They got Jake Spavital. With the quarterbacks, I said about the best you could do is this kid DeQuan Finn. And I actually didn't even mention him in the first episode I did on quarterbacks because I thought this is he's going to be a little too good to come here. He's going to get a bunch of Big Ten interest, which he did get Big Ten interest. But you went out and you got him. So for my money, for this year and this team, I think you got the best OC you could get and quite possibly the best quarterback you can get. And again, if it was Malik Murphy, I'm pretty happy with that too. So are they that much better? I don't know yet, but that's about as good as Baylor could have done in those two positions. I really think so. And the downside to that is, again, Baylor didn't have like this humongous problem at quarterback, I don't think. Now, with how hard the coaching staff has pushed the portal for some starting quality guys, maybe it is a bigger problem than we all think. But there are plenty more holes on this team. That said, the one position where you could bring a guy in and he could add or subtract wins off your schedule at one position, it's quarterback. And they didn't stand pat. They didn't get worse. Baylor got better in the quarterback room. Baylor lost their starting quarterback to the transfer portal and got better in the quarterback room, I think. And that's no slight to Blake Shapen at all. But I think they got better overall. That is just not something, if you had told me that a few weeks ago, I wouldn't have believed you. That Baylor would lose Blake Shapen and get better at the quarterback position on paper. I think they have. Now, I know there are some people who have told me, both through comments on YouTube and on social media, that I'm overhyping DeQuan Finn a bit too much. Maybe I am, but darn, I'm having fun with it. I am. I think this kid has all the tools to be a successful quarterback in the Big 12. He's not going to win the Heisman. Probably not going to be first team all Big 12. But like, we could be talking about a jump from a 4-8 team to a 6-6 team, which I don't even know if that saves Dave Aranda's job, but it helps us as fans. It does. And it gives us some more hope for the future to not have to go through another 4-8 or 3-9 type season, because we are teetering on Kevin Steele country here of 3 losing seasons in 4 years. And how much worse is it going to get? Bringing in someone like DeQuan Finn and having a guy like Sawyer Robertson to either be his backup or compete with him for the starting job, that puts Baylor in a much better spot. Baylor is a better team today, Sunday, late Sunday night, than they were on Saturday. And you lost a coach in that time. But Baylor's a better team right now. So am I being crazy about this? Am I going too far with this? Because I can hype up DeQuan Finn all I want, but until he goes out there on the field and makes Baylor better, you're still just a 3-9 team. So maybe I am overhyping him too much. But guys, I'm excited. I am really excited. And I don't know how about you guys, but I really felt throughout the week last week the most positive I felt about Baylor football in months, in that I was on this show talking about they'll go for a quarterback, but it might just be a depth guy. Like, don't be surprised if it's not a huge name. But they were ambitious in this, man. They brought in DeQuan Finn for a visit, who was one of the best quarterbacks in the transfer portal, like a top 10 quarterback in the portal, in a portal that included Kyle McCord and Cam Ward and Dillon Gabriel and Will Howard. Like, this guy was up there for sure. So you brought him in, and you brought in Malik Murphy, a top 10 quarterback recruit, initially scheduled a visit. Now, I was going to do a whole episode tomorrow about what the heck happened there and trying to figure that out. Doesn't matter anymore. That went from postponed to canceled, I think, that trip. So credit to Jake Spavital, man. He is a guy who comes in with a system that the players were excited about, and now he is getting guys to fit that system. There's plenty more work to be done. They need an outside receiver. They need some offensive linemen. They haven't brought one in yet. So there is still work to be done for this team and this offense, which was the better of the two major units. And special teams might have been the best of the three units. So they got some things to figure out on defense too. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Does this change anything for you? Are you excited now about Baylor football? Because as I sit here on late December 17th, and as you're listening or watching at the earliest December 18th, I'm in. I'm in. Not for 9-3, but I'm in at like 6-6. Because while they still have some holes they need to fill, this coaching staff now shows me that they're going to try, at least on the offensive side of the ball. And I think this doesn't fix a mess in terms of the coaching situation overall or the locker room overall, but this is going to help. This is a kid who has just balled out at Toledo, brought them back to a winning culture. They had made one MAC championship game in almost 20 years before he got there, and as the starter, he made it to 2 in a row. So he knows how to turn around a culture at the most important position on the field. So I'm in. We're going to do a lot more DeQuan Finn tomorrow. We're going to go through this whole thing, his career and what he brings to the Bears and what Baylor still needs to look for. But let me know down in the comments what you think about DeQuan Finn, the new starting quarterback, potentially, for your Baylor Bears. Thank you for making Locked On Baylor your first listen today and every day. We're the only place that's bringing you nothing but Baylor athletics content 5 days a week, in this case, 7 days a week. That's not coming straight from the university. So we really appreciate you guys. We'll be back tomorrow with a full episode, of course, of Locked On Baylor.